here in the West Pueblo, Linda Vista Island, which is completely surrounded by District 2. This is the largest island in the city. This is part of the county. This particular area, the West Pueblo, Linda Vista Island, is about 60% Latinx and Indigenous, and it has a average income in the mid $20,000 range. The services here are provided largely by the city, so it's city water, and the trash pickup is on the county contract, which is more expensive. The city water, the people in the county pay a premium for it, so they're paying more money.
What do they mean that I live in the county? I can't grow orchards or anything. And what am I paying? Why am I paying for extra water? This month it was $270 for 2 months. And look, I don't water my lawns. I have been home more because I work remotely now, but still it's only me and one more person. We don't use that much water. My parents, they live 6 blocks down. Well, they live in the city, and theirs is not even that high compared to mine, which is ridiculous.
So they live 6 blocks away, yet their water bill is much lower.
Tremendously lower. I think they only pay like $80 for every 2 months, and I pay $270.
$270 for 2 months of water.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
that's unfair.
Because they're not residents of the city, if they engage in any rec activities for their children or themselves as part of the city organization, it's an extra fee for being a non-resident.
There's a lot of inequity, essentially, and a lot of marginalized people live here who have less tenant protections as well. So this is very important to call it what it is. One, it's a sacrifice zone. It's not acceptable. It's not okay. But we're willing to let it happen. Just like when we have to destroy a forest, we know we shouldn't be doing it, but we're okay happening it because there's other priorities. It's also, in my perspective, it's also institutional racism. There's a high amount of people of color that live here. Historically, this has been an area and other unincorporated areas where marginalized people are funneled in there because they have a better chance of finding housing.
In the island here, most of the people are renters. It's a very high proportion of renters, much higher than in the city as a whole. And there are reasons that people come here and rent. Rental properties are subject to slightly different rules in the city than they are in the county. If a house is declared uninhabitable, for example, in the city, the requirement is that the landlord must provide alternative accommodation. In the county, that's not the case. But you can see that the Redwood Shopping Center, Redwood Plaza there, that's in the city. And those 2 posts represent when you're crossing into the county. And we have no sidewalks, no street lights. It's a tremendous difference in the quality of life that's available to people. One of the things that's indicative of being in the islands is the street signs. The newer street signs all have the county logo on them. This has actually been a disadvantaged community for many, many, many years. And it was one of the few communities where there weren't deed restrictions on housing. So, Napa's infamous for having deed restrictions that said, if you were a person of color, you couldn't buy this house.
This might be for the attorney or the mayor. Are we talking annexations tonight too, or is that going to come later?
Well,
because there was a lot of correspondence that came in late last night and came in today about the whole thing on annexation. Was that part of tonight's discussion?
I think it has to be, because those people are not simply having votes diluted, they're completely excluded. And I think about it as a hypothetical Latino candidate, or any candidate. You're canvassing a neighborhood where 60% of the people are Latino, where 40% of them are renters, and it doesn't follow streets, it doesn't follow census geography. It's impossible to tell who can vote and who can't vote.
Right. I just took exception with some of your comments about, that we've excluded certain county pockets, like it was intentionally excluded, which is nothing but the case. And you made a comment about how, through your research, you haven't seen anything that these unincorporated counties object to annexation. Who did you talk to about that?
Well, I've talked to people that live there, and I've also talked to
the development community.
To LAFCO.
You talk to the development community, because every time we see a development and there's an interest in annexation, there is always resistance to the unincorporated areas about annexing along with that new development. So I
think that is the problem, sir. I think that it's the development interests and not the constituents that live here. And I believe the Supreme Court has established that a racial minority cannot be redlined out of a jurisdiction simply because the development interests run it that way. Whatever the intent is, it's not a question of intent, it's a question of effect.
Yeah, but
and the effect is discriminatory.
That they've been excluded by local government. It's the fact that the property owners there, it's their choice, and that's the way we've been doing it in the past.
But the master plan, sir, says that the residents declined. Yeah. It's not the residents, it is the development interests. And I think you need to confront that consistency with the master plan.
Yeah.
Here we are with a sign for Gerardo Martin that is being displayed here in the island. And the irony is, of course, that people are letting their preferences be known, but they can't let them be known at the ballot box because they don't have the vote in the city elections. So that's a very clear indication of some of the problems that are rampant in this area.
I do plan on making a vote for Gerardo Martin. I've just turned age recently of being able to make my vote, so I plan on doing that.
But are you registered to vote here in this address?
I am.
So you can't vote. You can't
is
vote
that
on.
So?
Yeah, that's the whole point of this.
Yeah, you can't vote in the city.
So what do you think of that?
Yeah.
That I am a little confused on. I feel like my voice isn't going to be heard at all, even though I've been signing petitions and going out and showing my opinion. I feel like they're trying to make it to where people that live in Napa aren't able to do the impact that should be happening in Napa.
I actually find that sad, but they are part of Napa psychologically. It's just an administrative thing that needs to be corrected.
By having this sacrifice zone be excluded from the civic participation, it's a way of stealing their vote and their voices and their opportunity to vote, to speak for themselves and the right to self-determination. And I think in this context where people of color are afraid to live and exist, is just extremely unacceptable.
They are disadvantaged areas, and they've been traditionally disadvantaged. It's almost as though people have been herded into these particular areas rather than voluntarily choosing to live here. It's high time that they became part of the city.
Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Maribel. Soy la coordinadora de Censo Indígena.
Mrs. was explaining where she lives, and probably heard the streets that she named off. Though it's her community, her indigenous community, she speaks a different language. She's actually using Spanish so that you can at least get a translation of what she feels, and she's here to represent her community, her neighborhood. and to remind you that they're not invisible. They're present there. They have a voice. They should have a voice. They don't feel like they have enough of a voice, and that they should be included and they should be respected as part of the community and included in the upcoming election.